we're all going to have a lot of fun here today, all right? And we are going to have a chance to take a look at what we need to be responsible for, what we need to talk about. Now, the one thing is, I don't fool myself at any point in time, so I don't want to fool you either, that I'm going to stand up here in front of you today and share something that is radically new that you have never heard before, all right? Because really, there's a lot of different sales concepts, there's a lot of different ideas out there that we've all heard them, and if we've been in sales for any length of time, you've probably checked in with at least one or two sales gurus, whether it was on Google or you actually read a book, all right? So I'm not going to do anything radically different. However, I do expect that a few of you may get an aha moment, not because I said something new, but because you heard it differently from me than what you've heard it in the past. Or it'll be something that you'll go, you know what? I used to do that. Why did I quit doing that? Because that's one of the most commonly used phrases I hear. You know, I used to do that all the time. I don't know why I stopped. It worked. That was the problem. It worked, so you stopped. All right? And then some of you will just look at each other and go, what did he say? Well, we'll figure that one out as well. All right, so the objectives that I'm going to offer up to you here today are that hopefully we're going to get some fresh perspectives on who we are, how we present ourselves, and how we take or go into a sale situation, all right? Ultimately, I want you to walk away from here at least feeling more confident that you've got some new tools, or you've got a different perspective on some tools that you've used in the past. All right? Ultimately, I want you to know how to build a stronger relationship, because that's what it's all about, is building the relationships. And we need to understand why someone should buy from us. And if we can't answer that question, how are we going to help them recognize why they should? Now, by the third slide, you may have picked up on a little bit of a theme going on here, right? All right. Well, it is October, so we might as well throw a few monsters out there in respect for Halloween. But I chose Frankenstein because this dude he needed some confidence. He didn't have any confidence and didn't know how to get it. He really needed help building stronger relationships, and he couldn't figure out why nobody liked him, you know? So he was kind of the poster child, shall we say, for where I'm going or what I hope we can accomplish here today. Now, there are some ground rules for us to get started. I'm hoping all of you already have them there, but if not, put your cell phone on silent, okay? You know what? If you have to take the call, go outside, take it, and then come on back in and get the information. I want this to be really interactive, and you've already caught on that how I do these, all right? This is a discussion here today as much as a presentation, all right? I want you to ask questions, because I'm going to ask questions of you that I do expect you to respond to and give me answers, all right? So if I say something that doesn't make sense to you, I can almost guarantee it doesn't make sense to somebody else in the room, so help your brother out and ask me the question. But I want you to keep your questions from your real world experience perspective, all right? I don't want to deal with these hypotheticals, this could happen or this might happen. Give me your real world examples and let's talk about those. Fair? Good ground? All right. 3 quick premises here. First and foremost, do you agree with me? Everybody in this room is in sales. Yes. All right? I don't care what your title is on your business card or what department your chair sits in at work. Every person who is involved in your business or in your organization is in sales. I fired an advisor in college because he told me I should be in sales. When I was in college, the last thing I wanted to do was be in sales. I was in my dream job when I realized that I was a salesman. I was the head football coach and in a college setting at 29 years old. And I realized that what I really was a salesman. And it was from that moment forward that I simply embraced it and realized this is my gig, all right? This is what I'm going to be doing. So everybody is in sales regardless of what your title is. Second one, anybody who has ever heard me speak in the past or shown up at a Fun Fridays has heard me use this next phrase. They have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you before they're ever going to buy anything from you or refer people to you. Any disagreement on that premise? No? And then the last one, we buy emotionally, but we justify all of our purchases intellectually. In agreement? Okay, I love it. This is the first crew that has all agreed with me on that. So I know I'm in a room full of sales folks. All right? So let's start with this one. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that likes to have slides read to me or me read slides to you. But this one, I'm going to walk you through this one because I want to talk through all of this. So that first one there, people buy from people. People like people who are like them. People tend to trust people who they like. And people buy from people who are like them. Now there's a progression there that I'm going to walk you back through that. So people buy from people. I have heard a lot in, say, the last 3 to 4 months of people worried about AI. All right? Now, I want everyone here to understand that AI can take an order. AI cannot build an authentic human relationship. So if you are an order taker, start looking for a new career. Because if AI hasn't taken your job, AI will take your job. But I'm going to suggest to you that a professional that knows how and can build authentic human relationships will never be replaced by AI. And that's where we all should be. People want to buy from people, most importantly, because they want to know that you understand their situation, that you will be there for them, not just to pick up the paycheck, but to make sure that they get what they purchased. In other words, that you're going to deliver on what you said you were going to do. And regardless of what happens, your prospects, your customers, and your clients, and I said that purposefully, those are not interchangeable terms in my world. All right, prospects, they've raised a hand, said, I want to talk about your product or service, but they've not bought anything from you. A customer has made one purchase. All right, a client has made multiple purchases, or they are a long-term purchase. Even though it's only been one time, they're going to be with you a long time as you deliver on the products or the services that you're offering. Now, regardless of what happens, they want to know and they want to feel that you have their back. Regardless of what comes up, they want you there to help take care of them. Now, people like people who are like them. There is so much psychology backing up that statement that we don't even realize it all the time. First of all, people who resemble us create a sense of familiarity, and we judge them to be likable and relatable. And that's straight out of the familiarity principle from psychology. The next one, we are more attracted to individuals who share similar traits because it fosters a feeling of understanding and connection. And that's from the similarity attraction theory. Physical similarities signal to us the things that we're going to share that are the same lifestyles, the same habits, the same personalities, even emotions and beliefs. If we physically are similar. Plus, there's some genetics and some evolutionary things that are kicking in on us as well. But to break down is this simple. Humans are visual, all right? The largest percentage of us are visual learners, and if you look like me, you must be like me. And thus, I feel more comfortable with you, all right? Which leads us to the next one. I'm more likely to trust you. Similarity factors lead us to believe and feel that we can trust people that we like, all right? Shared ground helps us make a relationship feel more stable. The similarity fosters a sense of trust and safety. Do you trust yourself? Absolutely. So if somebody's like us, we can trust them too, right? Well, that's what it says. And let me ask you this. Do we really trust somebody that we don't like? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
No? Okay, all right. So she did this. I'm like, okay, I'm open, give me. So it is a possibility that there's somebody that we don't like them, but we still will trust them. But it's really rare, all right? So it doesn't happen very often. And even if you fake me out there, all right? So then that's what brings us there to the last one, that people buy from people who are like them because they trust them, they feel familiar. We want to create that. Now, we're going to do a little team exercise here, okay? We're going to pair up into partners, and I think this table, you're going to have 3 in a group with this table, all right? 2, 4. Oh, Mike, you and Lori pair up right here, okay? All right? Now, I want you to get in pairs. Here's the exercise that we're going to do. We're going to share our 30-second commercials, okay? With your partner, you're going to share. Whoever's first name comes first in the alphabet, you're going first, all right? I'm going to keep time. You've got 60 seconds to share your 30-second commercial. Fair? All right, here we go. So let's pair up. Get your partner. And I'm breaking the 2 of you up on purpose. All right, so the first one. Ready, set, go. Stop. All right, now, second partner, it's your turn to share your 30-second commercial. You've got 60 seconds. Go. stop. Okay, now each of you has shared your 30-second commercials. Now, whether or not they sound like this or not, I don't know. Hi, I'm Jeff Driskill. I own Driskill Coaching. I work with business owners and companies who are successful, but they're frustrated. They're typically frustrated simply because the expectations of the leadership are not being met by the results of the team that works for them. So I help them develop doing coaching, consulting, and professional development programs to bring those expectations in order to close the gap between where they expect it to be and the actual results. I typically hear owners tell me something along the lines that they've got a good sales team, but they're not in front of enough qualified prospects, so they don't feel like the company is moving as quickly as it could. Other times they tell me that they've got management that are very good, but they have difficulty holding the teams accountable to the expectations, and so clearly the pipeline isn't as full the way as it should be. Or they simply tell me that and I forgot the last one here, but I would have said that last one. Now, I don't know if any of that makes sense to you or not, or it sounds familiar. If it does, maybe we should talk. If it doesn't, maybe you've got other things that we should talk about. I'm Jeff Driskill. I own Driskill Coaching. We coach you to coach your team. Now, first thing I'll tell you right there, my 30-second commercial was not 30 seconds, right? All right?
Not even close.
Not even close. I know that, Jeffrey. We've talked about that, haven't we?
We have.
All right? Now, here's the question that I want to ask each of you, though. As you talked to your partner, all right, what did you learn from them? What do you know as a result of their 30-second commercial?
More about their business.
Say again?
More about their business.
More about their business. All right, good.
Target audience.
Their target audience, all right.
Product they sell.
The product or service that they provide, good.
Their own expertise.
Their own expertise.
The fact that they're a small business, they still can produce and create things in a timely fashion for you.
Okay, all right. Did anybody get a name? All right, and the business name? Yeah, so the four elements that we should have conveyed at least there was your name, the company name, what you did, and some examples of the solutions that you can provide that may or may not be important to them, but the problems that you can solve for them. Now we're going to touch back on that. So let me ask this question. Who in here wants to talk with their partner more to learn more about them or their business? Yeah, just hold the hands up. Okay, so congratulations. Here's your first takeaway from today. All right, those of you whose partner raised their hand, that's your lead that you're going to follow up on tomorrow as a result of being here today, and you're welcome. All right? Have a coffee with them. Find out more. So what would you like to know more about? What more do you want to learn?
How to obtain the service that we discussed.
Okay, how do I purchase it?
Yeah.
How do I buy it? Okay, what else?
What's the process?
What's the process? Excellent.
Sounds like we might be a fit, but just defining what fit looks like.
There you go. Sounds like we might be a fit, but let's figure out what that really looks like.
Their portfolio or examples that they have of what they produce.
Okay, all right. Lori, do you have something extra?
I've forgotten it already.
Okay, that's okay. Welcome to the club, sister. All right, so then let me ask this question. By just a show of hand, who likes their partner? Okay, most everybody raised your hand, okay? And those who didn't raise their hand, I know how Jeffrey is, don't worry about it, all right? All right? Now, do you trust your partner? Just raise your hand. Okay. I love this reaction. Yeah, I don't. All right. That's good. Okay. Because trust. If you know who your partner was before we came in, all right, you've already started moving toward a relationship. All right? The reality is, if the honesty would have been there and everybody in the room had not known each other coming in, you would have talked for 30 seconds. And the question when I asked, do you trust your partner? It would have been okay to say, I don't know. Because we don't. Because basically what that exercise shows us initially is they piqued our interest, all right? We kind of maybe liked them, all right? But we don't know if we trust them yet or not. Because what that simply shows us that in 30 seconds, we don't build trust. All right? But in less than 10 seconds, we make a decision whether or not we want to move forward with building a relationship. Now think about that. We can't build the relationship in 30 seconds, but in 7 seconds, that's the official time, in 7 seconds we make a decision whether or not we want to build a relationship, or at least explore building the relationship. So that brings us to how do we do that? How do we accomplish building that relationship? Before we talk about how do we accomplish it, who's responsible for building relationships? We are. All right? Now, it's easy because I know I'm in a room full of sales-minded people. All right? But here's the real answer that I typically get. Well, everyone's responsible for building a relationship. And then I put in the caveat, so who's responsible for building the relationship with a prospect, a customer, or a client? The salesperson, absolutely. And you have to own that responsibility. I used to tell my sales team that from the point that you picked up the telephone, you made a conscious decision that when you picked up the phone for that incoming call and answered it, you accepted the responsibility to help them make the decision, regardless of what the decision is. Because a decision to not work together is as good, as strong, and as valid of a decision as it is to decide we are going to work together. Okay? So, we have to be aware of, conscious of these elements that as they go into building the relationship. First of all, we have to own our communication. And when I say our communication, the message that we are projecting, we are responsible for. All right? So, here's a little experiment. Rhonda, great job.
Thank you.
Mike, great job. Lori, great job. All right, what did I say to Rhonda, Mike, and Lori?
Great job.
Great job. What did I mean when I said that to each of them?
Different things.
Different things. I hope that Rhonda felt really energized by that and knew that that was an authentic, I was telling her she had done a great job. I probably really hope that Mike got the sarcasm going there, that I didn't think he did such a great job at all. All right? And I totally confused Lori because what did I tell her? There was nothing authentic about anything that I suggested, right? All right? So, what I hope that you take from that is, as sales folks, or even as a manager leading a team, we are responsible for the message that we are projecting. And the exact same message in those three instances, the words were exactly the same. But do you realize that more than 90% of the message that you deliver is from your body language and your tone, and less than 10% is from the actual words that you utilize? 7% of your message is from the word you select. Now, for somebody like me who really thinks a lot about the words that he's trying to say and he's trying to put together, that's a hard message to accept. So we have to not only know that we're selecting the words to convey our message, but we have to be conscious of, own, and purposefully utilize our body language? Are we making eye contact with our prospect, customer, and client? What is our body posture? Are we leaning in or are we leaning back? All right? Are we just kind of hanging out to the side, taking it not so seriously? What are we doing with our hands? That's one of the areas that I struggle with, all right? You know, what do I do with these meat paws, you know? I put them here, you know, do I put them in my pocket? If I cross, I was in front of a class one night and I was sitting here, thought I was just giving my biggest professorial look as I had an adult student and she calls me out. She says, and you're standing up there just telling me that you don't even believe one word of what I'm saying and that you really just wish I would get done and shut up. And I'm like, where did you see that at? She says, well, you got your body crossed with your arm and you're in tight with it. And I'm like, wow, you're going a lot deeper here than I ever hoped that you would. But okay, I'm sorry, that's not what it is. But my body language, that was the message that I was delivering to her, whether I intended to deliver that message or not. So I have to own that, I have to know that. Using my hands, using hand gestures is important, all right? And using your voice. Because tone is that one word that encompasses the volume that you use, the pitch of your voice, how fast you talk or how slow you talk. That's all encompassed in the tone, all right? And if we're only on the phone, if I just told you that more than 90% is body language and tone, and less than 10% are the words, and we're only on the phone, that tone's got to say a lot for me, all right? I have to be excited to listen to you and talk to you, all right? Old days, we had mirrors in front of the phones, all right? Would you want to work with this person? Smile. Now, it's interesting that if you smile before you get on the phone, the tone of your voice is different than if you answer the phone and you haven't had a smile on it, all right? So, simple things like that. So we're responsible for the message that we deliver. How did you know when you were doing the 30-second commercial with your partner, how did you know that they were listening to you? All right, good eye contact, good. What else?
She nodded her head.
She nodded her head, excellent, okay. Anything else?
Lean in.
Lean in, all right, good. All right.
Asked questions.
Oh, they asked questions, all right. That wasn't even allowed, but they still did it. Okay, good. All right. That's okay. That's okay, all right. Here's the interesting thing. When we are sending the message, all right, when we are sending the message, we actually have two goals in mind. First, we want to be heard, and the second is we want to be understood. All right? It's our responsibility not only to own the messages that we're sending, but we have to be active listeners as well. Now, active listeners do the things that you were doing. All right? They make good eye contact. They nod their heads. All right? Ask questions, absolutely. All right? They also will, I've heard that. Oh, I know how that feels, sister. I got that one. Yep, been there, done that. All right? It's a verbal acknowledgement of understanding the message. All right? Now, here's why being an active listener is so important to building a relationship. Guys, tune in hard now, right now. All right? Pay attention to me. All right? When you are actively listening to the person that you're talking to, all right, you are conveying to them that you want to hear them and you're endeavoring to understand them. So it begins as they're talking before anything is said. It carries on, though. An active listener is also going to confirm what they think they understood the speaker to say. Now you're going to do that one of two ways. You're either going to restate what they said. So what I heard you say was, and simply restate their words. Or, and if I understand what you mean here, I think you said this, and you restate or rephrase what they just said. Here's the beauty of it. Get it right or get it wrong, you still get relationship points because you endeavored. You heard them and you endeavored to understand. And that's building the relationship. That's the active listener part of building the relationship. And the beauty of it is, whether you got it right or whether you got it wrong, you get the points. If you got it right, oh, that's exactly what I meant. I'm so glad we're on the same page. If you got it wrong, well, that's what I said, but here's what I really meant. Well, whether they didn't convey the message clearly enough, or whether we're just not the brightest bulb in the box, all right? Either way, they're going to restate that message. They're going to phrase it in a different way. They're going to redefine, and that's not only going to help you, but it's also going to help them clarify their message. And again, the points that you're getting toward the relationship are incredible. Now, the third one is ask questions. All right? It's amazing when you ask questions how that builds the relationship. All right? Because what that does, you have to be authentically inquisitive. You want to know more about what they're talking about. All right? So just the beginning, from asking an additional question, you get more information. All right? But doing that also shows respect. It shows that you have an interest in them. And interestingly enough, when you're asking questions, it also shows your expertise. Now, how does asking questions show expertise?
Because you're probing and probably engaging them with something they may have not thought about.
Yes, exactly. And especially when you're in a selling environment, you're asking them questions about whatever it is that they're talking about that is trying to find out whether or not it matches up with your product or service. You're trying to decide whether or not you can really be of valuable help to them or not. And so you will then be asking questions and utilizing your expertise to ask the right questions. All right? We're not just throwing up snowball questions. I always have fun with this because when we do an initial questioning exercise when I do sales training, it's not unusual that I will send people home over a weekend and say, here's your assignment. Anytime your spouse or your kids ask you a question, you cannot answer the question. Your rule is you can only respond with questions. All right? And then when I ask them, so how did that go? Well, gosh, they just started talking. They were telling me, and then I was asking more questions, and they're talking and telling me, and then they said, wait a minute, what are you doing? All right? And because it broke the pattern, all right? But they were sharing so much more information, all right? So your expertise in asking the questions, it's not just throwing blank questions out there. You're asking questions that are leading to somewhere because you know what you need to find out in order to decide if it's a good fit or not, okay? Now, question, yeah, Jeffrey?
So can you ask too many questions?
Well, if you're just asking questions to ask questions to kill time, yeah, just keep going on there, Jeffrey. Hey, why did you do it that way? You know?
I just felt like as I went through that exercise you had given me, and I did it with my spouse and my dependents, my boys, like 10 questions in, and all of a sudden they were like, all right, I'm done. Like, so the thought process that I started thinking about is, do people at some point start to think, okay, this is annoying that you've asked so many questions, or do they really, depending on the question, do they stay engaged? Because at some point, their brain goes off, it's like, why is he asking me so many questions? Like, Dad never digs this deep into my
Okay,
relationship
yep.
or whatever. And all of a sudden, now I'm no longer telling the truth. Now I'm going to start to pull back.
Yep.
And be like, I'm not telling him anything because he just figured out that this was all going to take place this weekend.
And the reason I want the reason that I want you to do that with the spouse or the family is because you know them and they know you intimately, all right, and there's a pattern there. And Dad normally asks me 3 questions, I answer them, and I'm off the hook, and I can go play my video game.
That's right.
All right? Dad just went to 10 questions, what's up? All right? Or when I did it, all right, with my wife, all right, she's going along, she's telling me more, and then all of a sudden she's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing this exercise that I was given, and I'm supposed to ask questions. Knock it off. Yes, ma'am. So using that example, we do that with our spouse or our family because we've already built up a pattern. There's that normal pattern of how we interact with each other, all right? And we're breaking that pattern. When we're talking with a prospect, typically we don't have an established pattern, all right? And here's the other thing, when you're being authentically inquisitive and you're asking questions about the situation or their situation or whatever their problems are that they're experiencing or what challenges they're facing, they want to talk about that and they're willing to share. All right? So there is a difference. Now, if you just keep asking question after question and you never provide anything to the other side of the conversation, that's going to be a little suspect. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
And I think the other part of that is when, like, for the products I sell, some take 3 questions, some take 50 questions.
Mm-hmm.
You preface it with the customer or the person up front that just says, I need to ask quite a few questions in order to truly understand the relationship.
Yep.
So if you give that to them up front, which is what I generally do, they understand it may take more than 10 minutes to have that conversation.
Yep. Yep. And we aren't even talking about setting up an agenda beforehand. We're just jumping into, building the relationship and trying to, but you're absolutely correct.
I do a lot on the phone, so.
Yep. Nope. And
set up that a lot.
And we have to set that up that I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Are you going to be okay with that? All right. And then I always have that wraparound that when, wait a minute, you're asking a whole lot of questions. Well, remember when I said I was going to, I gave you warning. Can I continue? I want to get their permission to do that. All right? All right. So in asking those questions, it's also helping them not only define but refine what they're saying, because there's a lot of times, especially when we're working with a prospect in a scenario, that they may be voicing something for the very first time. You may be the first person that has asked them a question about that. I always like it when somebody says, well, these other guys that I was talking to, they didn't ask me these questions. I'm like, damn straight they didn't. All right? But I'm always glad about that. Now, here's the last one here. We got to make them feel comfortable. We're responsible for their comfort zone. All right? So we have to be able to follow their speech patterns. We want to be able to use some of the words that they're using or the phrases that they've used. We don't want to use their cuss words, though. If they're using that, we don't want to go there with them. All right? And we also want to make sure that we're not utilizing acronyms or shop jargon or slang that they may not know what it is. And we also don't want to use that impress me language. Okay? We want to be familiar to them. We want them to feel comfortable with us. If we're using language that is unfamiliar to them, and that could be simply not repeating their questions, all right? I did this with Jeffrey a lot. Every time he would ask me something, I would ask him a question and use part of what he asked me in his question. And we would have a conversation because it was his words that I was asking him about. All right? That's what we want to be doing. Because here's the reality. If we're the ones that make them feel uncomfortable by the language that we're using, all right, the acronyms that they aren't familiar with, the shop jargon that they don't recognize, when I say to you, do you understand? What am I going to get? Oh, sure I do. Absolutely I do. And that the whole time they're like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, and I don't care to know now because I don't feel like I'm in his club. He's making me feel uncomfortable, and guess what happens? If we make them feel uncomfortable, guess what happens to us? We're gone, okay? They're going to remove us. So we want them to be comfortable. All right, now, here's where we need to go. Once we're building this relationship and working on this, why does a prospect buy your product or service? It solves a problem, okay? I love it when I get that answer, all right?
They want the result that it provides.
They want the results, so they want the solution that's going to fix it. I love that answer too. Say again?
It fits their budget.
It fits their budget. Okay, they hope that it does. Okay. So,
You've asked the right questions.
okay, yeah. Using that one on me, aren't you? All right.
I mean, it does work when somebody, just what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Rephrase their words.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked, what didn't you like about a program? Well, I didn't like this.
Yep.
Because they were one and done. I'm like, mental note, they don't want one and done. They want consistency.
Yeah.
And so that's what sells
Mm-hmm.
is, like you said, their words.
Yeah, their words. All right. Now I'm going to go back to what Mike and Amy said here. All right. They want a solution. All right. And they want the result that the solution is going to provide. Okay. So this is usually when I say, welcome to the kill zone. The bear trap just sprung. All right. Because what I'm going to suggest to you is that they don't really want the solution, or they don't want their problem solved. Let me put it to you that way. All right? I mean, think about it this way. At work or at home, do you have problems that exist and have existed for a while? It's a problem. You know it's a problem. But you haven't done anything about it, right?
In the words of Terry Flatt, I don't have a problem with my problem.
There you go. There you go. So the reality is that when we have problems, we don't necessarily have to fix the problem. All right? I've got windows at the house that need to be replaced. All right? And I found this wonderful thing called caulk. I don't have to replace the windows right now. All right? I found a solution. I found a workaround that solved, it didn't fix the problem, but it's a workaround that I can live with, right? And so what I'm suggesting to you, it's not what our marketing people tell us. It's not the features and the benefits that are going to be the solution to the problem that they're after. All right? And I love seeing the inquisitive questions there. Here's the reality. For them to do something and to purchase your product or service, they have to change something, right? Something has to change in their world, correct? All right? Change is scary. Change is uncomfortable. All right? Change is one of those things that is difficult for us. And there's a whole lot of science behind why that happens. But can anybody in the room tell me what the one and only purpose of the brain that sits in our cranium is for?
Keeping us from dying.
Say again?
Keeping us from dying.
It's survival. That's it. It's it. The brain does everything in order for the body to survive to support it. Survival is its only purpose. All right? So, to that point, brains prefer things that are predictable. All right? They don't like discomfort. Now, there are studies out there, and depending on which study you decide to follow, one says that there's 60, and another one says that there are 60,000 thoughts generated by your brain every day. So regardless of if you pick 6 or 60,000 that you want to go with, there's two things that both of the studies agree on. One is that 95% of the thoughts that are generated are repetitive. We think about the same thing in different ways, but 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. But here's the big one. 75% of the thoughts that we have are negative thoughts. And they're negative because that's the brain's survival instinct. Generating negative thoughts prevents us from doing something differently. It prevents us from changing. Because if we change something, it requires more energy, it requires more effort, it requires more focus, which means the brain has to supply more energy, more effort, and more focus. It wants us to go with the status quo. It's actually also change creates stress, and the emotional response to stress is resistance. All right? Talk to my wife. About 90% of the time she says, we are going to do this, and my immediate response is, no, we're not. And then I have to go 5 minutes later, okay, we'll do that. But it's that change. I don't want to change that. All right? It's creating the stress. So what can motivate people to want to make the change? So here's where we're going to really dig in on this, and I know that I'm 5:15, right, Matt? Okay, I want to make sure. Gave up some time to Christina earlier, so. All right, so we have to figure out what is motivating them to change. The solutions, I said earlier, is not what they really want, all right, not necessarily what they are looking for, because the problem is what has to be fixed, but that's not what we have to figure out, because the problem isn't going to motivate. A problem, folks will share those with us pretty easily. If you ask them what's going on, man, they go right to start talking about some of their problems, all right? And that's great, but they do that because A, there's no emotional connection to it, and B, they don't have to take ownership of it. They're just simply reporting the facts, the condition that is. All right? So they don't own it, so they don't have to worry about anything being connected to them. The problems, though, why are they existing? Now, most inexperienced salespeople will hear, I've got this problem, I have a solution. Oh, you don't like that solution? I have another solution. You don't like that solution? I have another solution. Well, that's the old school of let's just pick up the spaghetti and throw it on the wall and see what sticks, all right? But if you start to dig deeper, you will then begin to figure out why that problem exists, all right? And this is kind of like asking your questions of your teenager, all right? They'll give up the information if you ask the right question. But unless you ask the right question, they're not going to just volunteer why that problem exists. We need to know, why is the problem in place, and probably what have they tried to do about the problem to make any changes in the past, all right? But ultimately where we want to get to is figuring out what is the problem costing them, all right? Now, when we get there, please note that I said, what is the problem costing them? I did not say how much is the problem costing them. It's really pretty simple. If it's a dollar thing, it's costing me X amount every month when I do this. Well, if your product or service costs X minus Y, and it's costing them X, well, that means yours is less, so that's a simple transition. The reality is, we need to know what the cost is, because it isn't always money, all right? A lot of times, it is time. It could be their reputation or their ego that's getting bruised. It could be their market share, all right? It could be their job. I've actually had people tell me, well, if I don't get this fixed, I'm going to lose my job. So what is their cost? Because the cost is going to be the impact. And this is going to get emotional. Now, when I say emotional, that does not mean that you're talking to somebody, asking them about their problem and trying to figure out what the cost is, that they're going to turn into a blubbering heap of ectoplasmic goo, all right? But what we have to do is we have to start listening for some of those emotional words. Now, this list that's up here behind me, this is not the list. This is not a definitive list. But these are some of the words that you will commonly begin to hear as you dig in and ask more questions in an effort to determine what the cost is that they are experiencing as a result of the problem that they have. And when they start telling you that they are frustrated, or that they are unhappy, or that they are disappointed, or they're angry or worried, now you're getting to where you need to be. Because not only are they sharing with you the emotion that they are feeling, but they are starting to experience that feeling as well. So that's where we want them to be. All right? I'm rushing through this for you. Jeffrey, can you come up and give me a hand here, bud?
Yep.
All right. Jeffrey and I are going to do a little role play up here. This is the motivational profile that we want to build on our prospects. All right? So tell me the problem again that you were, what was the problem that your customer had?
Client has a 130% health insurance renewal increase.
Okay, so his client has a 130% renewal increase. All right, so into role play. Jeffrey, can you tell me more about the issue that you're having with the increase?
I don't know, Jeff, just I've got this increase. I have no data on why I'm getting this huge increase. I hate insurance companies.
Go sit down, Jeffrey. All right, you're really screwing me up here, you know that. All right, so...
I thought you'd ask a good question back.
Well, I will. I got to listen to what you're saying, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So why do you think that you're seeing this increase this year?
I'm assuming we have someone in our office that is having some major health conditions.
Okay.
I don't know exactly who that is. I'm assuming it's probably a spouse, because normally with health conditions of this magnitude, I would have somebody asking off work, but no one's asked off work. Everyone shows up every day and everything seems to be fine. So that's the only thing I can put my hand on.
Okay.
Is that I probably have a dependent of somewhere
Okay.
causing this issue.
All right.
You can't go from a 0% increase last year to a 130% increase this year without some major health condition going on.
Okay. So how is that increase going to affect you this year?
Well, it's going to devastate not only the company, but it'll also devastate the employees. I mean, no one can afford a 130% increase.
Yeah.
And I obviously can't pay all 130%.
Right.
So they're going to have to pay their portion, and I'll have to pay my portion, and it's not fun.
No, it's not fun seeing that kind of an increase. All right. So what are the other options that you've explored?
Well, I'm talking to another broker,
Okay.
and he is shopping it out for me, and that's all I've got so far.
Okay. All right. So the other broker, how is he going to be different than what we are?
I don't know. He didn't really tell me. He just asked for my information, and I said, sure, I might as well have someone else take a look at it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to come out of role play here for just a second, because this is an ongoing issue that Jeffrey has with this client from the perspective of it is out of his control, it's out of their control, it's one of those problems that the way he's going to have to solve it is pull them out of that service and go into another service, okay? So I'm going to step out of the role play just because I want to, time where I would get back there, but go sit down,
Okay.
all right? So asking him to tell me more about the situation, and then typically they'll give you a lot of information, but then you want to hone them in on a specific example, all right? And just by asking them, so can you give me a specific example of the last time that occurred? All right, so that they can use that specific example to use that, and it goes back to my comment earlier, you know, let's have a real life experience that we're going to use to talk about. All right, so we've got some real references. And then in asking them how long that has been going on, you're trying to set up some sort of a time frame. All right, if it's something that's just recently started, all right, well, they may not have done a lot to try to figure out how to solve it. You may be their first resource, and that's okay if you are, but that gives us an opportunity to figure out if it's, you know, why is it creating this? And it may have been going on for a long time, which also plays into your advantage, because Now you can just do the follow-up question. So what's changed? Why are you trying to change it now? Or why are you asking about doing something differently now? All right? Then following up with, so what have you done in an effort to fix it? All right? Well, the fix it part, they're going to tell you some of the solutions that they have tried in the past. And it's going to do you two things. All right? First, it's going to tell you the solutions that you don't want to suggest because they've already tried it and it either worked and stopped working or it never worked because they're talking to you. All right? But you're going to find out the multiple or the one or none of the things that they have tried to fix it. All right? Now, when they tell you what they've done in an effort to fix it, the question, did it work? That is the question that too often gets overlooked because we assume that because they're talking to us that the solutions that they tried didn't work. So we just jump ahead. But asking them if it worked, what you're going to get is, well, it worked for 2 or 3 months and then it quit working. Or it really was never effective, but we tried it anyway in hopes that it was going to change. But you're going to get, again, you're going to start creating the feeling of frustration, which you want to, because you want them to feel the pain that's being associated with the problem that is in existence. All right? Then, once they tell you whether or not it worked, what does that cost you over the 6 months, if they said it's been going on 6 months, or the last 2 weeks, or whatever? All right? Now, whatever they come back with, you verify with them, all right, that sounds expensive, but is it painful in your world, or is that a problem for you? Confirm that. That's a follow-up question, all right? Real life world scenario. I had a company that told me that they wrote off $10 million every quarter. And I looked at this person and I said, following and eating my own dog food. So I don't know about you, but in my world, that's a lot of money. Is that a lot of money to you? Honest to God, he says, no, not really. No, not really. And I'm sitting there going, man, just give me 10% of that and I'll solve your world problems, you know? Well, there's a construction company and they are worldwide and they do a lot of write-offs every quarter, so $10 million writing off worldwide didn't seem like a lot of money. Needless to say, we didn't work together, all right? But what has that cost you? And if you get that, whatever it is, ask them about the impact of that cost, all right? Clarify that, and then get this very clearly. So how do you feel about that cost? There's where you want to be when you ask and they go, yeah, really, it's not that big of a deal. Well, if it's not that big of a deal, why are we talking about it? All right? But when they tell you, I can't sleep at night. It keeps me awake. I'm worried about every time it rains, it's going to leak or whatever. Whatever they tell you. All right? And then the last question then, are you ready to make a change? What they want, back to the bear trap that I sprung on the two of you, the solution, yeah, we have to solve the problem. Yes, they want the results of us solving the problem. But what they want is the relief of the pain. They don't want the impact because that's the motivator. And by asking more questions, not just throwing spaghetti against the wall, that's how we find out what their motivator is and whether or not our product or service is a good fit. Okay? Now, just to wrap up, we're all in sales. They have to know you, like you, trust you before they're going to buy from you or refer anyone to you. And they buy it. We all buy emotionally, and we justify it intellectually. We are responsible for building the relationship, and we have to take in those 4 things. We have to own the message that we're sending. We have to be good listeners, active listeners. All right, we have to ask more questions, and we have to make sure that our prospect, our customer, and our client is comfortable. It doesn't happen in the first 30 seconds. It's ongoing and continuous. It never stops. It doesn't matter how long you've been with a customer. You have to continue to work on and be responsible for the relationship. All right? Knowing that change is difficult, we have to be able to make them feel comfortable about change. No sale ever takes place without change. Knowing that we're automatically putting them in an uncomfortable situation, even when we've got the best solution in the world, we still have to recognize that it will be uncomfortable for them and that we have to get them through that. If we can discover what's motivating them through not just learning about their problem, but understanding why the problem exists and the impact or the cost that it is having on them, we then can help them to recognize the motivation that they have in order to make the change and make it easier for them. We simply have to ask more questions and get the emotion that is involved and ask how they feel about feeling like that. All right? And then you get to show the value of your product or your service. Because the equation, the cost comparison equation, ultimately, if you've walked them through this and built the relationship, and you truly have the solution for them, you're going to be able to show them that the cost of purchasing your product or service is less than the pain and the difficulty that they're having and they're feeling with the problem. Show them your value. All right, questions?